I just wanted you guys to know something that's very, very important. Aquarius, mm, I don't know if they told you this or not, but I'm going to tell you. Even Aquarius who make excuses do not like hearing excuses. Can't stand it. And it happens all the time. Like, oh my God. People make excuses all day for things that they don't want to do. Basically, people, the way that I see it, people either make a way or they make an excuse. That's usually what happens. So, for example, a woman was saying to me the other day, she needs to get some more credentials for work. So her job wants her to take a master's degree program. So she was telling me all of the reasons why she cannot do it. She works hard, she's tired, she has a husband, she has other obligations, and she has a daughter. And she was telling me all the reasons why she cannot possibly do this. While she was talking, I was thinking to myself, I know 100 people, literally, with even worse circumstances who did the same exact thing. And I didn't say this to her, but this is what I was thinking. I remember when I was in school, I knew a woman that was in her 50s. And she had already raised her family. She was a grandmother. And she had a husband and she had all kinds of things. And she still went back to school because it was something that was important to her. And I was thinking to myself, she's making an excuse because she doesn't want to go to school. So that's what the whole thing is about. It's just an excuse for something she doesn't want to do. Now, mind you, everything she said is true. She does have a husband, she does have a daughter, she is very busy. All those things are true, but I've seen people under worse conditions still make it happen because that's what they wanted. The bottom line is that this isn't what she wants. Her job is making her do it and she doesn't want it. So I wanted to talk today about Aquarius and excuses because a lot of times people who are in relationships with Aquarius send me messages and the Aquarius done snapped on them because they felt as though they were making excuses. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it and explain to you why it's problematic for the Aquarius. And it's probably problematic for other people too, but I know for us it's one of our pet peeves. So let me do the introduction. Hey, it's me, it's Queen Said Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to anybody and everybody that you know who might like it too. Please leave us a positive comment in the comment section. And please stick around because I'm going to read some other comments and respond to them. Likewise, if you like this video, if you would like to become a patron, if you would like to get a reading done, if you want to chat with me, whatever the case is, all that information is underneath this video. So let's talk more about these excuses. It pisses me off. Quite frankly, it pisses me off. And it's one thing, like in the case of the woman going back to school, that's one thing. That didn't really piss me off because I feel like at the end of the day, she's only really lying to herself. Bottom line. But when I'm in a relationship with somebody and they're constantly making excuses for their behavior or they're making excuses for their lack of behavior, it pisses me off. So one of my clients was telling me she didn't understand why her Aquarius got so angry with her for making up what he called excuses. And she was trying to tell me how these things are not excuses. So I said, well, what's the deal? So she said that she has an illness. An illness that is not a chronic illness is what she called it. And she said that the chronic illness is manageable. I didn't ask her what it was, but she said it was manageable and she has an illness. So her and the Aquarius are getting into it because she is a Gemini lady, was saying that they get into it because she'll say, well, my illness is flaring up and I can't do X, or I can't go X, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And the Aquarius, the last 2 or 3 times blew up at her and was like, you're just making excuses. And she's like, Queen, how am I making excuses for an illness that he knows that I have? And I'm like, you got to understand, it's not about the illness. He knows you have the illness, but you push past, according to her own words, she pushes past the illness when she has to do something important. So the message that the Aquarius is getting is you can push past it when it's important to you, but when it's important to me, or important to us, or important to our household, you're choosing not to push past it. And it took me like 15 minutes to explain that to her, because in her mind, he should just drop it as soon as she says, it's my illness. And I'm like, I got you. He should be compassionate about your illness. That is true. But you also should be compassionate about the fact that you just said when it's important, you push past it. So he wants to know, why isn't he that important? Now, mind you, he didn't say any of this. He didn't say anything. He snapped and shut off. He snapped at her and just shut off. You know, all the times, I think it was 2 or 3 times, he snapped and then shut off. And she was trying to get me to explain it. And I'm like, you are saying indirectly in his mind that he's not as important as the things that you do push past the illness for. So as I started to have this conversation with her, it took us about a good 15 minutes. She started to understand what I was talking about, because I'm like, no, you're not lying. Yeah, your illness is well documented, but you're the one that said yourself that when it's important, you will do X, Y, Z. So that's what he's wondering about. Another thing, sometimes people do this to me too. Sometimes I'll have a client and we're talking about why, for example, they need to leave an unhealthy situation. Perfect example. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were telling me that their mother is verbally abusive. She's always been this way all their lives. And they were saying to me, I just put up with it because she's my mother. And as we got through the conversation, it came out that this is an excuse because she finds it too difficult to deal with it. So instead of dealing with it, instead of talking to her mother or not talking to her, putting some space between them, doing anything, she does nothing. Instead of doing something, she does nothing. And then she makes the excuse, well, that's my mother. Well, that's my family. But I call bullshit, because just because somebody is your family member doesn't mean you should allow them to abuse you or ignore their bad behavior. I don't believe in that. Some people will say, oh, it's family. Psychologists tell us that is unhealthy. It doesn't matter who the person is, you don't allow someone to abuse you. Now, mind you, when she was younger, there was nothing she could do about it. It was her mother. She lived in her house. But you're grown now. This woman is in her 30s. So it's like, now you're grown, and now it's time for you to do something, anything. Create a boundary, go to therapy, do something. But instead of doing anything, she ignores it and then makes excuses. That's my mother. She's getting older. She's going to die soon. And I don't want us to have friction when she passes over. And I was looking like, I feel you. I think all of those things are valid. But I still would not allow them to keep me in a bad situation, being abused by this person. So Aquarius have a really hard time with excuses. And the hardest part about excuses for other people is that excuses usually have some truth to them. Some of the times they're just straight up lies, but sometimes they have some truth to them or they're completely true. But it's still an excuse because, and like in this case, that doesn't have to hold her back from addressing the issue. Deal with the circumstances, but still address the issue. So a lot of people will run into this argument with Aquarius. Sometimes I will be talking to you guys on Asking Aquarius about a person with a situation. And I'll give my opinion or whatever the case is. And then somebody will come in the comment section and start making excuses for the person. Excuses the person didn't even make. They'll make excuses for them. And what I've come to find is that it's because they've made or are making the same mistakes as the person I'm talking about. So instead of just owning it and saying, okay, or saying, I hear the information, but it's not for me, and moving on, they'll argue or try to argue with me over the point. But see, I'm not an arguer because I know my temper's bad. So I just ignore them. I ignore them. I ignore their excuses. I usually just delete the message and move on because I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you, period. But I'm damn sure not going to argue with you about making excuses for somebody else because you're doing the same messed up shit. You know? So I noticed that, and I thought that was interesting when I first started doing Asking Aquarius. I'm like, why is this person defending this person and making up excuses that this person didn't even say? They'll be coming out the woodwork. They'll be like, well, maybe this person is contemplating hurting themselves. Or maybe this person has a problem with alcohol. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I talked to this person. This person ain't mentioned none of that you making up because you're doing the same bullshit and now you want to try to gaslight me. Stop. So I don't even respond to excuses. And when there's somebody that I'm talking to, like a client, I try to point them out because it's not helpful to them to live under those illusions. So I try to point them out and get them to see it for themselves, but it doesn't always work. A lot of times I just try and then I back off because they have to see for themselves that they're making up excuses for whatever this may be. So I'll point it out and then back off because all I can do is show you the water. I can't make you drink it. So if you have an Aquarius in your life and y'all have beef over excuses, this is what it's about. I would rather a person just tell me straight up. You ever been ready to go somewhere with somebody and they don't want to go, and instead of just telling you I don't want to go, they hit you up and be like, well, my grandma fell and I gotta go help pick her up, and then my cousin Boo Boo said he need me to drive him to the mall, and they have this whole list of things that all of a sudden they have to do. All of these excuses. Instead of just saying, dog, I don't feel like going. I would have more respect for a person that told me, you know what, I was gonna go, but I don't feel like it now. I'm tired. I don't want to go. I would have more respect for that than them giving me a list of lies, you know, or a list of things that have happened, but that's not the real reason. Like, okay, your grandma did ask you to get some cream corn, but you don't need to get it right now. You can go to the market tomorrow morning before you see your grandmother. So I don't do very well with them. I know a lot of Aquarius told me that they don't do well with it either. As a matter of fact, most of us see it as deception. And once an Aquarius feels like you're deceiving them or trying to deceive them, the chances that they will trust you are less likely. So when dealing with an Aquarius, don't make excuses. Just tell them flat out, look, I don't want to do this. Look, I'm not feeling this. Because 9 times out of 10, that's why you're making up the excuse, because you don't want to do it. So just tell them, I don't want to do it. I'm not trying to hear it. You know, tell them nicely so y'all won't get into a fight, but just let them know, I don't want to do this. Like in the case with the woman with the illness, if she would just tell him, I don't want to, he would deal with that easier than her saying, oh, it's my illness. And then 15 minutes later, she's doing something else. Oh, your illness not bothering you now, is it? And then they get into a fight because he feels like you've deceived me. So think about that. And if you have an Aquarius, just be straight up with your Aquarius. Don't sugarcoat things. I mean, don't be ignorant. Don't be rude. Don't be nasty. but don't tell them things that are excuses. Just tell them the truth in the nicest way possible. The nicest way you can put the truth. I really don't want to go. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. I'm not feeling that. That doesn't resonate with me. Just tell them. Tell them straight up. All right, now we are going to take a look at these positive comments. Number one is from Alfred Coleman. Hey, Alfred, what's up? Alfred said, thanks, Queen. This video post came at the right time. Stay blessed. That's what's up, Alfred. Thank you for leaving a message. Unapologetically curious. Hello. Those shoes look nice. What a great gift. I got some pink shoes the other day. They're so cute. If you want to see them, check out my video called A Gift from Goddess. All right, guys, it's time for me to get going. You come back soon because I got so much more to say. See you later.